Hello, I'm Andrew Price. Welcome to the channel, and today I'll be discussing my 5 favourite folding knives. Now I'll kick things off with the Swiss Champ by Victorinox, and this beast of a knife has travelled with me all around the world. So a lot of my big trips, this knife came with me, and it's a very useful tool. So as well as having 2 blades, which are here and here, the Swiss Champ has a multitude of other gadgets that are really useful as well. When I was traveling when I was younger, one of the most useful would have been the corkscrew because, well, if you like wine, you always want to have a corkscrew close by. So that came in useful. And inside the corkscrew, I have this tiny screwdriver as well. It's a flathead screwdriver, and that comes in useful for repairing sunglasses when the screws come loose, all sorts of things like that. So a really useful tool that you can just forget about until you need it. There's also a little hole here that normally has a pin, but I've lost the pin, and that pin is great for working out splinters, things like that. So very handy to have in there. And we'll come around to the side. So before I open any more of the accessories, we'll take out the plastic toothpick. Really useful. Toothpicks come in very handy in lots of situations. So, you know, before a hot date or at any other time, you might want to winkle any sort of seeds from between your teeth, that sort of thing. So always useful. And then alongside that, we have a very small ballpoint pen. Never know when you need to jot down a number, just handy to have. Coming around to the other side, we have probably the most useful tool on this knife, which is this little set of tweezers here. Great for getting splinters out, loads of other tasks, maybe removing ticks potentially. Now we'll look at the other pieces here. We have a Phillips head screwdriver, and that's come in useful a lot of times as well. This model also has this set of pliers here. These are surprisingly good, not particularly good for use as pliers for, you know, heavy industrial tasks, but they do come in useful for holding things while you work, and also as a sort of a more robust set of tweezers. So if you're trying to pull something out of you, they come in useful for that. Another thing that we have here, which is also useful for those splinters, is a tiny magnifying glass. That can also be used for firelighting using the sun's rays, so that's useful as well. We have another flathead screwdriver here, and this one is attached to a bottle opener. And if you look at that little notch there, that's designed as a wire stripper. So that comes in handy. And then this side, another tool that's used an awful lot when I'm traveling is the tin opener. And the tin opener on these Swiss Army knives is as good, if not better, than the tin opener I have at home. They're really good. They tend to open the tin very quickly and very cleanly, and I wouldn't be without one of those. Moving on, we have the scissors. Very useful. While I was traveling a lot, I couldn't afford haircuts, so I would often trim my own hair using this little scissors. The only real downside is if you lose that spring in here, and then they become quite awkward to use, but you can get replacement springs, and they do tend to fail after a while. But yeah, keep a couple of spares. They don't weigh much, and that'll keep you good. Coming along again, we have the fish descaler. I can't say I've ever used this for descaling a fish, but it definitely could be used for that. And it has a little measuring, 3 inches of measuring markings on here as well. So if you needed to measure something precisely, you could use that. So that's, to be honest, that's one of the tools I've used the least on this, but you never know, it might come in handy one day. And then we come to a couple more. The small saw is very useful. Tends to cut through just about anything. So I've used this in a lot of bushcraft type situations for cutting very precise notches. And then we move on to the file. If I can just get the thumbnail in there, good. So the file is surprisingly good for everything from nails. It also has this little point for getting dirt from under your nails, but that file works really well for all sorts of tasks as well. So just smoothing things off, anything that gets damaged. So that gets used a lot as well. And then we come around to the other side. And this is a bit of a mystery item, but I've been told this is a parcel carrier. So you can use this to carry a parcel that's bound with string, and it means you've got a handle. So that will work quite well. And then another tool that does get a lot of use here is this awl, which I've used for everything from making new holes in my belt to working wood, a very useful tool there as well. And we have a small chisel point. This can work as a small screwdriver here as well. It's not a tool I've used a lot. And a very small flathead screwdriver there as well. And I think that's everything. Okay, so this tool, I think at the time I bought this was about £50. I'm not sure what they cost now, but I've had this for at least 30 years. It's come in very useful on a lot of my travels, and it's one of those tools that I think I would never want to be without on a long-term trip. Next up, we have this knife, which is my favorite everyday carry work knife. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a locking knife, and in UK law, locking knives are illegal without a good reason. Now, fortunately, I work on land that I have permission to be on, and I have a good reason to carry it, which is as a bushcraft instructor, I use it for work. So that's my kind of get out of jail free card. However, I do have to be careful. If I forget this is on my pocket when I'm calling into the shop on the way home, I may get myself in trouble. But as long as I remember not to carry that in a public place without good reason, I should be fine. So this is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, and it's a beautiful knife. Has a satin S30V steel blade, and also the G10 handle in the Digicam print, which I really like. Even though I could lose this if I drop it, I tend to look after my things quite well, so I'm not too bothered. I've got the lanyard on here, which some people are not big fans of lanyards. I find it very useful when I'm trying to locate it quickly from my pocket. So it's clipped on here, and I normally find the lanyard first, and then I can just pull it out of my pocket. So that lanyard does come in useful. And coming around, just a very easy to open knife. Comes in useful for everything from slicing a piece of cheese to opening a parcel. And it's sort of become, over the last 10 years, it's become a part of my hand. I can just sort of open it up very quickly. So that probably is my favorite everyday carry knife at the moment, and that's why it's in this collection. Next up, we have the classic French Opinel. This is a knife that I've used a lot, or variations of this one. This current one is a Opinel number 8. And it's been slightly modified. If you notice, the blade shape has been reground into a drop point, which makes it stronger. So it's more suitable for things like cutting out the bearing block for a bow drill set or things like that, where I might need to use the point. But the Opinel is the classic French knife. It's an eating knife. You can use it for peeling an apple, slicing a piece of cheese, preparing an entire charcuterie board. It's just a great knife to have. Unfortunately, in UK law, because it has this locking ring here, that makes it a lock knife, which means that you can't legally carry this knife in a public place without good reason. But apart from that, it's an excellent knife to have. Now, this being a number 8 has the locking collar, but anything under the number 5, which is the very small ones, they come without a locking collar. So they are technically UK legal knives. And it's an excellent one. This particular version is the inox, which is French for stainless. And I also use the carbon steel, but they do rust very, very easily. So if you're planning on slicing anything acidic, onions, tomatoes, things like that, you may want to go for the stainless steel model rather than the carbon steel. The beechwood handles, I think, are really attractive. It's all one piece, and they are not expensive knives. They used to be incredibly cheap. They've gone up a little bit over the last few years, but they are still inexpensive enough to have a few of them knocking around in your kit. So I tend to have one in all my favorite jackets, and they are very nice knives and the perfect general purpose knife for cutting pieces of string, eating, anything you might need a sharp knife for. This one in particular I like to carry in a Kydex neck sheath, which means that it's always there when I need it. I can just pull it out, and they are made by the Kydex Outpost, and I'll be posting a link down below. My next knife is a slightly quirky choice, but it's a classic that I bought several years ago at the Bushcraft show in the Bring and Buy, and it's become a favorite piece of my collection. Now, it is a folding knife, but with a difference. So you're wondering why it's in a sheath, and that's because it folds, but only half. And this is the original leather sheath that it would have come with in the 19th century, in the late 19th century, probably 1880s, 1890s, when this knife was made. And as you can see, it is folding, but only to half of its length. Now, I'll open it fully and I'll tell you a bit more about this. So we press this button here, which allows it to open. And if you can see here, there's a small hole perforated in the blade, which locks into that locking mechanism here. So I press into there, it lifts the pin out and allows me to open this knife out. And now you're wondering what this enormously long knife is for. And the knife itself was made by Joseph Harwood and Company of Glamorgan Works, Sheffield, in the 1880s or 1890s. I still haven't found out too much about this knife. And it was designed specifically as a hunter's knife, or more specifically for hunting pigs. And the idea is that, I'll just open that up again. So in this configuration, it can be used as a general purpose knife. It's got a bit of a Bowie clip point blade, which I really like anyway. As you know, I'm a big fan of these clip point blades. So in this configuration, it can just be a general purpose knife. I can use it for all of those jobs that I might need to do around camp. But if I've been hunting a pig, my dogs have taken down a pig, or I've shot one with my crossbow, or whatever people were doing in the 18th century, 19th century, you need to finish that pig off. Now, the way to do that is to take your knife, press the button here, open it to its full length, and then, this is gruesome, but you get in, right in, and you finish that pig off using this knife. Once you've done that, give it a wipe, and you can return it to its original configuration. So often these were referred to as pig stickers or pig sticker knife. A very classic design. There are still manufacturers that make versions of this today. I think Marbles is one of them, and it's a very classic, quite an unusual knife design, and it's become a part of my collection just because it's quite unusual. The quality is really top notch, and I believe the handle scales are probably buffalo horn or something like that. They're very dark. The sheath itself is, as far as I'm aware, original, which makes this quite a good collectible knife. And I remember paying about £80 for this, which I think is quite a bargain for a really classic piece of history. So that one lives in my collection, doesn't really get used, but I like this one a lot. And finally, we have this knife, which is the Cold Steel XL Voyager. And I don't know why I bought this knife, but this is the Tanto fully serrated version. It is huge, far too big for daily carry. And, but for some reason I just love this knife. It's absolutely massive. Like I say, I have no particular use for it, but when the zombie apocalypse comes, this is going to be my everyday carry knife. It is a beast. What a machine. Right, it has locking mechanism there. Being a locking knife, I couldn't carry it as a daily carry. Plus, it's way over the 3-inch limit of a everyday carry knife in the UK. So this only really comes out to look at on those special occasions where I open my drawer and look at my knives. But it's beautiful. It has a pocket clip, even though it's almost impossible to carry this practically in a pocket. Some people might argue with that, but it is a beast. The steel is AUS 10A, made in Taiwan. I love cold steel knives anyway. There's something about them. They're just brutal looking, but I just love them. And the handle material, I think they call this grivery, but I may be wrong about that. But like I say, not exactly a practical knife. I love it all the same, so it definitely gets in my collection. Those are my 5 favorite folding knives at the moment. Some of them are used and abused on a daily basis. Others are drawer queens. They sit in the drawer and occasionally I take them out and admire them. But I like them all just the same. Now, I'd be interested in hearing what your favorite folding knives are, so please comment down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our weekly content that's uploaded every Saturday, 1 PM UK time. I'll see you next time.